What's going on, everyone? It is finally time for my UFC 294 predictions video. We're going to be running through the entire card, top to bottom, and I'm going to be highlighting some of the important fights and also putting you guys on some other fights to look out for, as this card is really stacked and I'm super hyped to talk about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So there are two specific prelim matches that I did want to give a quick shout out to, and the first one is Tim Elliott versus Makachev, which takes place in the featured prelim spot. And this is a fantastic fight. I mean, this is two super exciting flyweights. Makachev is honestly one of my favorite fighters to watch. Although he makes some weird mistakes sometimes and does some dumb stuff, he's great to watch and an amazing talent who still says he wants to be the youngest UFC champion ever. We'll see if he can get there. Tim Elliott as well is also a solid opponent, a great fighter, but I think Makachev is going to edge him out here. He's in front of his home fans, and he's going to want to look to put on a show. Well, technically his home fans. He is half British, but whatever. That's unimportant. Makachev is going to take the win here, and let's move on to the other fight. So this other super fun matchup we have here is Nathaniel Wood taking on Muhammad Naimov. Naimov, of course, came out against Jamie Mullarkey last time out in his UFC debut and got the finish over him. He looks super impressive, and honestly, I think he's going to take it to Nathaniel Wood. Wood, on the other hand, also a very talented featherweight. I mean, you saw what he did against guys like Charles Jourdain and just a lot of other high-level opponents that he's been able to deal with effectively. Here, although it is close, and last time I did have Jamie Mullarkey out against Naimov, I am going to go with Nathaniel Wood. I think Wood is still the better overall fighter, and I think after this one, we'll start seeing him against ranked opponents. So yeah, Nathaniel Wood to get the job done. So as we've come to expect with Abu Dhabi cards, there tends to be a lot of Russian and Islamic fighters who partake on the card, and this card is no different. Right here, I'm going to show you three Dagestanis that I think are going to dominate. We have Said Nurmagomedov, we have Ikram Aliskerov, and the one that I'm really excited about, Sharbutin Magomedov. And all three of these guys are going to come and put on a show. I want to start with Sharbutin first because he's definitely the most interesting out of the three. So he is making his UFC debut. He is undefeated, all wins by knockout except for one heading into the UFC. And he's coming in against no joke of an opponent here, Bruno Silva. Honestly, though, I see him running through Silva. I mean, Bruno is very good, but Sharbutin, he's a different level. He honestly kind of scares me, to be honest, and I don't say that about too many fighters, but look at him. Like, honestly, he looks like a cyborg. This guy is a certified stud, and I see him definitely getting the job done against Bruno Silva. Now on to Ikram Aliskerov, who is taking on Warley Alves. Initially supposed to be fighting Nasruddin Imavov. That would have been a real fun fight, but Imavov is out, so Alves steps in, and yeah, it's going to be Ikram. I think we all know that. He's just amazing as well. I don't see how Alves could win this fight. I think Imavov versus Aliskerov was a lot more fun of a matchup, and maybe could have given Ikram a bit more of a test, but no. Ikram's been beating guys like this consistently, and I don't see it being any different here. So last but certainly not least is Said Nurmagomedov. If there is anybody to screw up this Dagestani sweep on this card, it's probably him. I mean, he had a really close fight last time out against Jonathan Martinez, but the judges didn't see it that way. They saw Jonathan Martinez being the one who was victorious, and although I disagree with that, it was still a super close fight. And now, in front of him, he has Gafurov, I would say a much easier opponent than Jonathan Martinez, and yeah, even though I do think there's a chance he could sell it, just because the last time, I'm still going to take him here. I think all three of these boys are going to put on a hell of a performance, and it's going to be just amazing to watch. Now on to the final three fights of the card, and I'm going to be going a little more in depth with these ones, so buckle up. So first, we have Johnny Walker versus Magomed Ankalaev, a super fun matchup here, and we have the four categories as well: striking, power, grappling, and fight IQ. I'll give each guy a category, and by the end, we'll see who wins. So, we're going to start off with striking. So the striking category is pretty close because I would say this is where both of these guys specialize in the most, but I am going to have to still give it to Magomed Ankalaev. I think Magomed is just a super, super talented striker. I think he throws perfectly to the body and to the legs while still giving the head attention, and he's just overall, I think, just a more sound and complete striker than Johnny Walker. I think Johnny Walker possesses some of the more wilder attacks, but I think Ankalaev is the more cleaner guy. Next up, we have the power category. And this one I'm actually going to be giving to Johnny Walker. I think Walker has really put his power on display in these last couple of fights here. I specifically look at the Paul Craig fight where we saw him just absolutely feed Paul Craig with back fist to the head as Paul was trying to go for a takedown, and it was powerful. I mean, Johnny Walker's definitely powerful at that size, that big. He definitely hits like a truck. Even the Ion Cutelaba fight, he displayed power there. So yeah, I'm going to give Johnny Walker the power category. Next up is the grappling category, and while both of these guys aren't really known for their grappling, I'm going to give it to Magomed Ankalaev. I think we've seen a little bit more from him in grappling exchanges compared to Walker, and I think if it gets to it, which I don't think this fight will, I think he stands a good chance against him. Our final category that we have here is fight IQ, and this one's also going to be going to Magomed Ankalaev. I think he is the smarter fighter in there. We've seen that in the past. We've seen Walker make mistakes, and although we have strung a couple of wins together here, it hasn't been against the same level of opponent that Magomed Ankalaev has seen. And for those reasons, that's why I'm also going to give this win to Magomed Ankalaev. I think the Johnny Walker streak stops here. He's had a great run, but as we've seen in the past, with guys that are at the very top of the division, that's where Johnny Walker struggles. And although I think the bookies have gotten this one completely wrong, Walker's a really big underdog, so maybe there is a little bit of value in sprinkling a bit on him, but as for how I see this fight playing out, I think it will go to the distance, to be honest, and it'll just be a simple, unanimous decision win for Magomed Ankalaev. Moving on now to our co-main event, and it's a super fun one we have here. It's Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev. Let's get into it. Alright, so of course we're going to be starting off with the striking category, and to be honest with you, this was probably the hardest category to pick out of the four, but I have slightly edged out Kamaru Usman. And I've given it to Usman because I think after coming off the back of 2 fights with Leon Edwards, a world-class kickboxer and striker, I think that he's developed things that he wouldn't have had before. And he's also been in there a lot with a lot of different strikers and a lot of tough guys, and he's held up with them. I mean, I like going back to that knockout against Jorge Masvidal. I think that was amazing. And he really put on his striking there against a very good striker. So yeah, not that Khamzat's striking is bad, but I think that Usman has a slight advantage in that department because he is a little bit more technical, but who knows? We haven't seen Khamzat strike in a year. I know Khamzat looks great on the bags, but everybody looks great on bags, so we'll have to see how this one really plays out. On to power now, and this has to obviously go to Khamzat Chimaev. Guy's a freak of nature, and he has freakish strength as well. He definitely has a power edge over Usman here. I think his shots are going to hit harder, and I think he's going to be stronger in grappling exchanges as well. He's also just the bigger guy, so yeah, not much to say about this one. It's just definitely Khamzat. On to grappling now, and of course this one was always going to be tough, but I think you do have to give it to Khamzat Chimaev right now. I mean, the guy is just entering his prime at the peak of his powers. His wrestling has been incredible. His grappling's incredible. We've seen it. We've seen what he's done to guys, and yes, we have seen what Usman's done to guys, but it's important to remember Kamaru Usman's knees. They're not getting any better. Wrestling is going to be tougher, and we already saw his level drop a bit in his 2 fights with Leon Edwards. So yeah, definitely going to give Khamzat the grappling here. Lastly is the fight IQ category, and I feel like I have to give this one to Kamaru Usman. He's fought so many high-level opponents, and figured out how to beat them in different ways. And there's just so much credit you have to give him when it comes to that. Khamzat, yeah, his fight IQ is high, but he hasn't fought nearly the level of opponent of Kamaru Usman. And the better guys you fight typically means the better fight IQ you're fighting as well. So, yeah, I think it is close, but Usman, the more experienced guy, I feel like he deserves to take this category. So it's at 2-2, it's a stalemate, and although I think Kamaru Usman poses a lot of threats to Khamzat Chimaev and could give him a real hard time, I'm still going to go with Khamzat. And the main reason behind it, to be honest with you, is the training camp. I think Usman coming in on 10 days notice is way too short to prepare for a guy like Khamzat. And Khamzat, he's been in a full training camp. He's already been preparing to fight months ago. So I think on fight day, that'll ultimately be the big difference between them. And you'll see that Khamzat's just in a little bit better shape than Kamaru. And that'll be enough to get the job done. So yeah, Khamzat will win this fight. I think it'll be a decision, but I could be wrong. And we should see him step up and face Sean Strickland for the middleweight title next. That brings us on to the main event, the big one. It's the rematch between Alex Volkanovski and Islam Makachev. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with the striking category. And to no one's surprise, I think this is going to go to Volk. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Volk is definitely the better striker between the two. We did see last time out that Islam was able to give Volk some issues on the feet. It may not be as bad as everybody thought, but Volk is still definitely the better striker. We've seen what he's done to plenty of different opponents on the feet. He's always able to figure them out and always able to be a little bit quicker. So yeah, striking, Volkanovski. Next up, power. And this one is going to go to Islam. I think Islam is the more powerful guy. Even though Volkanovski's strong and really just good, I still think Islam is the more powerful guy. And as we saw last time out, he was able to hold down and control Volkanovski when he did get a hold of him. I know Volk tried to get out and did on different occasions, but overall, the bigger guy, Islam, I think he is the more powerful. Next up, grappling. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I think it's Islam. I mean, yes, Volkanovski has taken improvements and looks actually really good when you see him training now. It's still Islam. I mean, it just is. Like, there's just not much to say. We know Islam's level. We know the type of fighter he is. We know how good he is. There's not really a reason to dwell on this too much. Lastly now, we have fight IQ, of course, and this one's going to be going to Volkanovski. I mean, many different people, not just myself, believe that he has the best fight IQ in the entire UFC. He's made so many great adjustments over the years to really defeat his opponents, and he's figured out a lot of different guys. And I think he knows exactly when to enter striking and grappling exchanges. And I think he put his fight IQ on display the best against Yair Rodriguez at UFC 290. It was a flawless performance, and that's why I think he definitely deserves to take this category. And oh wow, we have another 2-2 tie. So this one, I was going back and forth with, but honestly, I think it's pretty clear. I think the winner here is going to be Islam Makachev. And it's going to be probably for the same reason that I said for Khamzat Chimaev and Kamaru Usman. The fight camp, the training camp. Volkanovski's been sitting on his couch, and he's gotten a call on 10 days notice to come and fight the best lightweight in the world. And that's just not something you can do on 10 days notice. You have a guy like Islam who you know has been training like a beast, putting in the work, and just becoming an animal over these past 10 weeks. And Volkanovski, while I don't think he's sitting there munching on Cheetos and drinking Coke, I think he's definitely not going to be in the same type of shape as Islam Makachev. I think Volkanovski is still going to make this fight super competitive and maybe even close, but ultimately, I think it'll go similar to the first one, with Islam being a little bit more dominant this time, and I definitely see him getting the win. So yeah, and still for the main event. So there you guys have it. Those are my predictions for UFC 294. A bit of a longer one, but I feel like there was a lot of fights that I wanted to talk about on this card because it is so stacked. And I'm just super excited for this main and co-main event. I think this is going to be two amazing fights, and it'll be incredible for the fans to watch. If you guys enjoyed, please consider subscribing and liking the channel, as it always helps me out a lot. And of course, drop your picks down in the comments down below. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. And I'm also going to be posting a couple of bets and parlays that I think I'll be making come fight day, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, thank you guys for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next one.